Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's the 15th, right? 14th? I can't remember. Giveaway of the Geared for Super Cool Awesome High Five giveaway. I still haven't come up with a name for it yet. Maybe I'll work on marketing better for next year on the name. So today we are going to talk about trussing. The amazing part about trussing is that it makes me a lot of money. A lot of it. A lot of it. A lot of it. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some creative truss designs. We're going to talk about some of the different tools of the trade when it comes to truss. I was going to try to have Danny Cabrera of Global Truss America here, but again, we are a couple weeks out from DJ Expo, so all the manufacturers are pretty much getting busy with that. And Danny, a good friend of mine, he just got promoted. He's now the official brand manager there, so he is handling a lot when it comes to Global Truss, and he's also overseeing a lot of branding for Eliminator lighting as well. Sorry, I got you through. I got you though. Make sure you guys have any comments or anything like that. Leave them in the chat. I will do my best to try to answer them in between. And I'm going to do something I haven't done before, so we're going to see how interesting this will be. I'm actually going to put a quick slideshow on as I talk. So first of all, let's go ahead and talk about why truss is the smart choice. First of all, it does have the longest lasting capital of anything, meaning it is the longest lasting capital. You don't have to replace anything in trussing. There's no light bulbs to replace, or there's no cables that go out. You do have to get your truss inspected if you're using it under heavy loads, but if you're only hanging a few par cans here and there, that's pretty much going to last you indefinitely. If you are using it in a concert or tour type setting, then of course, yeah, you need to get your welds inspected and all that. And honestly, even if you're not, you still want to visually inspect your welds. But other than that, it is your longest lasting capital that you are going to own. The other part is that because of that, it has it's a long-term return of investment. You're going to hear the term ROI a lot. I use that all the time. Several people, that do, speaking events, do. And basically, ROI means return of investment. How much money are you going to get out of this device or light or tool or whatever you get? And the great thing about trussing is that it doesn't become outdated. It's not like there's a new truss technology. Look, physics doesn't change. And as far as Global Truss is concerned, this is the best design that they can offer. It's not like there's going to be some new wild and crazy physics discovery that's going to change everything. Now, there are two types of trusses out there. A lot of us are familiar with the bolt trussing. And Global Truss and a few other manufacturers use the conical coupler. So a lot of people prefer bolt trussing, and I say those people are wrong. And the reason is because if you actually look right here, let me grab the mouse here. Right here, this is where it connects with the conical couplers, right? You have the little, we call them nipples. You slide them in, you slide in a pin, and hammer them in. That's a solid connection. So from one tube to the other, you have a solid aluminum connection that's not even hollow anymore. With the bolt trussing, all the weight is pretty much resting on the 4 bolts. I hate to tell you this, but that's the weak point of that truss. With Global Trussing, it is actually the connections that are the stronger points because of those big aluminum pins and nipples and all that. So you definitely want to use the conical system. It is definitely a lot stronger than bolt trussing is on those connections. And the disadvantage is that it's loud as hell. When you're hammering it in there, it gets loud. So it's not something you're going to be able to put in a country club very quietly while there's an event going on next door. But again, if you're going to be doing this kind of stuff, you're most likely doing bigger events. I definitely, and there are a lot of companies out there. I'll be very honest with you. This is not me representing Global Truss. This is just me as your Gear It First reviewer. There are a lot of companies out there representing products that look very similar to Global Truss. It may look exactly the same. It probably isn't. It's definitely a different manufacturer. I can tell you right now, it is not the same manufacturer. But there are some people that are making false claims. Just found out there's a company that says that their truss, which is the same design as this, can go 60 feet point to point. No, the hell it can't. And just because it's TUV rated doesn't mean that they're telling you the truth. They may be TUV rated, but I guarantee you they're not rated to go 60 feet from one side to the other. The deflection is going to be insane. Deflection basically just means if you have your trussing, right, you get your connection here, and then you just go down as you add more and more, the truss is going to do a little smiley face. Once you can actually see the smiley face, it's probably a little too much. So with Global Truss, they recommend about 30 feet. I won't lie, I've gone a little further than that, but you got to know what you're doing, and you better have somebody with experience that's making that call. But they recommend 30 feet point to point. Global Truss can also provide you with these certificates to show you what their truss has been rated at, what their clamps have been rated at, and so forth. And another great thing is that if you're curious about a design, if something's going to hold or not, you can call them. There's people there that are certified in this that can tell you, yes, this design is going to work. No, this design is going to fall apart. And if they help you create a design, they can even provide you with a CAD drawing. This is a service that not a lot of people offer, and it's included. So definitely go Global Truss. The other advantage of Global Truss and trussing in general, why is a smart choice? It is a visual appeal to the show. Do you know the difference between a $2,500 show for me and a $5,000 show? 9 out of 10, it's the trussing. You know, there may be a few little small things added in between, but as far as the light show goes, it's usually the same lights, except now instead of all being cramped on a goalpost truss, it's over the dance floor, or it's having a design that's going to appeal to the overall theme. Trussing is also the easiest way to upgrade your setup and increase your profits because of these reasons that I have mentioned above. I personally use the F34 series. You've got F24, F34, and F44. F44 is a really big truss. It's even bigger than this one here. F34 is what we're all used to. F24 is what I call baby truss. Actually, baby truss is the F14. And then the F23, F33 is the triangle truss. Trust me, get the square truss. You'll be happier in the long run. Especially because a lot of accessories are made to work with F34 right off the bat. So continuing on, what you need to know. First of all, trussing, you got to have the right transportation, right? You see this beautiful setup that we did here. This did not fit in a soccer mom van. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even cram this in my cargo. I can actually cram quite a bit in the cargo van, not this. We had to use a small, it's relatively small. We had to use a small trailer for it. It is not a solo op project. While you could set this up by yourself, you don't want to. Again, hire somebody to work for you. And you want to invest right the first time. And SLS already even said that. Just get the good stuff to start with. If you get trust from a good company, you can always get more. But that being said, yeah, you definitely want to invest right the first time. You don't want to regret going cheap on trussing. Also, if you have a company that says that my truss is compatible with Global Truss or with whoever trussing, do not get them. Basically, here's why. They don't care about you. I'll just go on the record and say that. Let's say that you buy Global Truss, and then company A here says, well, our stuff is compatible with it, and it may be. But let's say something happens and there's a manufacturer failure and the truss comes crashing down, kills somebody. Now, these trussing manufacturers have insurances that protect them and protect you. Right? That's why, for example, when you ask, well, why can't Global Truss sell a crank stand that goes over 16 feet? Because there's a whole different type of insurance that goes with that. Or at least, 16 feet to hold the center amount of weight. But what happens is, let's say an accident does happen and it kills somebody. These insurance companies are going to say, okay, well, hold on a second. You didn't use Global Truss with Global Truss. You used it with somebody else, so we don't know where the failure rate is. I'm sorry, you're out of luck. And then the other company's going to say, nope, sorry. You're out of luck. So don't screw yourself. Do not mix and match trussing. If you see these huge trussing disasters, that happened by professional riggers, ETCP certified riggers. They know more than you. And if they make mistakes, so can you. So do not risk stupidity just to save yourself a little bit of money. So let's see here. Let's continue on. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to kind of throw you off for a curveball. If you guys are in the chat, I want you to type the answers in right now. And actually, not like you're going to be able to, there's like a minute delay, so it won't matter. But what do these have in common, right? And I already put the answers. So I forgot this isn't a PowerPoint, but what do these have in common? Look at these cars. These are from pretty much 70s through 90s, right? You've got straight lines, very few curves, except for the Beamer. It's a very 80s look. I mean, when you see these cars, you instantly think old. Some of you may say classic, depending on, where you're from, but they're old. And they all have the same thing. You've got straight lines, very few curves. This is important when you think about your trussing, because trussing hasn't exactly changed in the sense of technology, but it has changed in the sense of aesthetics. But now if you look at newer vehicles, right, you have a lot of curves. It feels like a much more modern design. You've got a lot of colors put in. That's because I use some black and white photos. Actually, that one's the only black and white photo. The other truck is a full color photo. But again, you get a lot of those curves. Now think about that when it comes to trussing. Let's zoom up a little bit on this setup that I just showed you. So you have two different truss spans. If you look at the one here on the right-hand side, this is a traditional goalpost that we're used to. But then look at this one over here. See that over there with the curved, rounded corners? Look how much cleaner that looks. Just two side by side. One of them looks a little bit more modern. It looks cleaner. And there's nothing wrong with the goalpost setup, but it instantly looks not as pretty as the rounded ones. So again, that's what I'm talking about when I say, make the right investment the first time, because when these rounded corners came out, I'm like, ooh, I want these. These will be great for some of my more elegant events. And if I had gone with the F33 truss, I would not have these beautiful rounded corners that I could add into my inventory. Continuing on. Oh, great. Now people are talking about the truck. Apparently, Robert said that was his truck. It was a 86 F-150. Other great thing is, again, that you can really have a lot of fun with the trussing when it comes to the design. But these designs can take forever to set up. So it's really important to find ways to cut down on your setup time. Your creative design is easier to achieve when you speed up your setup, because then you can worry more about your light placement and everything else. The fastest way, in my opinion, to do the speed up your setup is using crank stands to lift everything up. Now, when I'm helping companies like ADJ or Global Truss and they're setting up these big booths, they don't actually use the crank stands. What they do is they set up everything on the floor, and then they lift one side, put the truss legs, lift the other side, and then they'll hang the lights. If they hang the lights at a lower level, then they're using the motors and everything to bump up. But I kind of do it in between. I put everything on stands, set up the lights, have everything wired, and then I crank everything up, lower the legs down, or lower down the legs, and we're done. So these crank stands really, really help out with that. It makes setup a lot easier. And yeah, those crank stands you're looking at, those are the 5200s. They are expensive as hell, but they're totally worth it because we're doing 16-foot tall setups. And we can do really unique things with those crank stands. But then what happens is, with this setup, I didn't put any floods on it. I put the floods on the corners behind the pipe and drape. And what we did is, I put the crank stands, when I was done, I put them one on each corner, put the flood on there, and had that flood 16 feet up. So it wasn't blinding anybody, and it wasn't part of the main setup. Continuing on here, we've got three different types of truss designs for you guys to think about. First of all, I have what we call flat, and this can be your goalpost. This can be your totem. This could be, just simple design, but it's basically flat. It's two-dimensional. It's basically 2 points, maybe a couple more points, but where the points are, there isn't one that's in front of the other. This is the easiest to set up. It takes very minimal space, and it's great because it works with most floor plans. And that's our standard truss setup for a lot of our events. So, hold on a second, here we go. You also, here's another different type of the setup that we did here. And we have two versions of that, actually. We have versions with crank stands. That's over there with crank stands. And then we have a version with no crank stands. Daniel, don't ask me how much. I have no idea. I don't do pricing. This one here doesn't use crank stands, but we did a thing called overhang. So you can see here, this is 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, junction block, and we have a 5-foot overhang. And yes, it is safe to hang it like that. Basically, we just hung some extra lighting from there. I wouldn't hang a speaker like that just because I don't want that extra weight like that. But it was a very cool looking design. We put a couple of shelves. You can see the lights there sitting on the shelves. Really unique design. It is much more multi-purpose. And it allows me to do different configurations. It still is a flat design. Again, you also have your totems. They're clean, they're inconspicuous, and they're easy and not so easy to set up depending on where you put them. They're easy when you think about it because, okay, you set up your totem, your lights, you're done. But they're not easy in the sense that if you have a bunch of lights that you're going to put on multiple totems, you got to bring the DMX cable up to the totem, bring it down onto the next, as opposed to a more flat design. You just bring one run, connect all your lights, and you're done. Your second kind of big setup, really, because I technically call them, I classify the totems as their own type of setup. You've got your flat totems, because the totems you can move in different areas. And then you have your over-the-floor type setup, your three-dimensional type truss. This can be over the floor. This can be over the stage. But either way, the truss is coming at you. It is big money spent. big money spent, but it's also big money made. You know, my schools, for example, that are spending between $7,000 to $15,000, we're 9 out of 10 doing some sort of big over-the-floor setup. It allows the lights to go directly over the dance floor. It allows the dance floor to be broken up a bit too, so you don't have students grinding, all in the dead center of the floor. But it also submerges you directly into the actual dance show or the dance floor lighting. You are now part of the show as opposed to just staring at the DJ like it's a concert, because it's a dance, not a concert. And it also creates that psychological dance floor border. It helps us keep students in the dance floor versus out in the seats and everything else. So we create that border. It brings people there. It keeps them there. It makes the dance floor really look badass. Now let's talk about some of the tools of the trade, and I didn't get a chance to finish this one because I'm actually going to do some stuff live. We'll kind of go from there. So some of the tools of the trade, and you're going to see in some of these different setups that we have here, so just be ready for it. And again, actually I wanted to show you here, whoops, there we go, come on. You have, again, your over-the-floor setup. You've got a flat setup. This one's holding pipe and drape. You've got another very simple flat setup. You know, the trussing can be relevant and it can disappear. With the one with the black lights, the trussing is not part of the show. The one without the black lights with the pipe and drape, the truss isn't part of the show, is visually speaking, but it's essential to hold all the stuff that we need and the pipe and drape. Crank up, crank down, we're done. And then over the floor setup, the trussing is part of the show. And it was definitely needed to be able to do, you can see some of the string lighting here. You know, you can't hang string lighting from the ceilings at any hotel in Orlando because PSAV has rigging rights. So we're able to do it with trussing. So some of the tools of the trade that you've seen so far, like for example in this setup here, again, I mentioned having the shelf. So for example, the DTF34 shelf, you can use it with an iPad mount. And I've used this, for example, either directly on a totem or as part of the truss setup to have business cards to let people sign up. You guys could also use this at an event so people can make requests, or you can use it as a video guest book. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with the iPad setup, but the shelf itself can be used to hold a light. You can use it to hold a projector, and you can check out my awesome gaff job on the projector there. We actually had a projector. It was almost closed down to the floor, and it was used to projector map a scrim screen behind me, and this was for a student government event, so we could pitch our services and they could see what we could do without me directly selling them the whole time. The boom arm is one of those items that you don't know you need until you need them. Absolutely love the boom arm. We use them when we're doing a truss setup and I have a Lico and it's too damn hot and I don't want to burn anything else, so I hang the Lico over the edge. Or for example, if I need to put a pin spot, I want to light up my area, the trussing's behind me, this extends the light out so I can put it directly over me. Or I'll hang a bubble machine from it, and then by hanging the bubble machine from it, I can keep the bubbles away from my lights and not have to worry about that liquid hitting my lights. You also have your SAP plate. Love this thing. Basically, it's a top plate with that SAP mount. You can use it to put a speaker on it. And I'll show you some examples of that. You could use it to put a rounded T-bar, for example, like the LB3800 or standard T-bar, or, you know, even a projector mount. So a lot of cool things that you can do with that particular plate. You also have other items like the dyno wheel. You have the DTFX MT. Let me actually pull up that dyno wheel so you guys can see it for a second. So let's go into Galaxy. This was the beauty pageant that I just did not that long ago. So this is the pageant that I did. And you can see there's a lot of trussing at this pageant, but I don't know. I thought I had a photo of that one. Maybe I do not have it. So there's actually right here, this is the SAP plate with the rounded T-bar. The beautiful thing about the LD3800 is it's a regular T-bar, but it's much bigger and it's not square, it's rounded, no bolts, so I can just clamp directly into it. Absolutely love the heck out of this thing. You also see some of the Pro zip covers that Global Truss offers. They're basically truss socks, but they have zippers on them, so you can still hang your lights and such as you need from them. I really would like to find where my, oh, you know what, it's probably in preliminaries. Nope, I thought I had it. On the back, I have the DT dyno wheel. I'll have to pull up another photo so you guys can see the DT dyno wheel. Basically, it's a big rounded circle that sits on top of the truss and allows you to hang the lights from it. Actually, you know what? I do have, now that I think about it. Let's see. Global videos. DT dyno wheel.
Hey everybody, Arnaldo Walkman here on behalf of Global Truss America / Truss. And no, I'm not putting together a Tesla coil. This is...
Alright, so that's the DT dyno wheel right there. So let me show you one of the cool things that you could do with the DT dyno wheel. So let's say, for example, if you're doing a dance floor light show and you have totems around the dance floor, you could put the lights hanging around the dance floor. Or you could put the totems around the dance floor and then have your lights around it. If you're doing a trade show display, this is a great way of renting a trade show display, have the shelves around the booth, and then be able to pin spot them with the DT dyno wheel. That's one of my absolute favorite tools that I use for my event. Let's go over here real quick for a second, and let's go into 2016. And we have Winter Park 2016 Homecoming. So again, a lot of tools that we're using here. You can definitely see the rounded corners right there. We have the mounted speaker covers. See right there, the DT SPK MT. And I know I've got a couple of boom arms. I just can't remember where the heck they are. There's a boom arm. It's actually hidden back there that we're using to hold our Wi-Fi devices and everything. And we actually have them away from the truss so we can see to make sure if there's any connection issues or if there's any problems there. We've also had, let's go over, let's see, 2015, I think. Nope, 2014 should be. Lake Nona. Maybe not. Oh man, I thought I had it on here. Yep, Lake Nona, Sadie Hawkins. I wanted to go way back before. So you can see here, before I actually had the circle standing on its own, this was where we made a giant snow globe. And now I do this a very different way. But you can see it basically looks like it just kind of stuck underneath the trussing. And we use what we call cheeseboro swivel clamps. They're basically two clamps side or back to back, and it allows you to clamp the truss into another truss. This is a great way of being able to have trussing designs that, whereas what is it called? The side entry clamp, right? So you have it. Let me see if I don't think I have a photo of it, but you have a clamp. And it's got a coupler in it, so it allows me to put legs or outriggers or anything into an existing truss setup. With that one that you saw, there is no way to really be able to put that into a half coupler and then clamp it on. So it's two clamps side to side, allows me to make the two truss pieces together, and now that circle is well put, it's steady, it's not going to shake. And it allowed me to do some really cool things with the projection mapping and so forth. And you can also see in the center is that boom arm, keeping the bubble machine away from the screen, keeping it away from everything. So we are very happy about that. It was great because before we always had bubble liquid spilling everywhere. Let's look at some of the other tools that are trade for some of the truss setups that we've done here. Let's go into 2017. And let's go. Oh, I don't have the Galaxy photos edited yet. But we have the TCL M18, which is a rounded speaker cover. I'm actually going to have to pull up some of the one of the photos here. Give me a second. Or videos. Global videos. Let me see if I have the TCL M18. So the TCL M18 is basically right there. You open it up. It looks almost like a giant laundry hamper thing. Now that Kelly said that, I can't get that out of my head. And it's cool because it's a really fast way of being able to cover your truss. You know, unlike regular zip covers or the regular truss socks, I can just drop the cables and you would never see them, which is wonderful. But I found another neat use for it. So at the beauty pageant, I had to do 16-foot tall totems to be able to get the lights up at the top. Boy, that is so difficult to aim that. What I found out is that these will actually wrap around the 5200 stands. So I literally had the 5200 stand covered. I actually have a photo of that, and Let me pull that up here. I didn't even think about talking about this until just now. But if you guys go into bigger events like this is definitely something you'd want to look into. Because I play around with this, I'm like, oh, damn, I actually have the entire truss piece covered. So here we go. This was before we cranked it up. Okay, that's before we cranked it up. This is a 16-foot stand, so we actually used 2 of them. But that's just with one of them right there. You can't tell that's a crank stand. You know, once you crank it up, it looks like a truss, but it's a crank stand. So now we were able to hide a crank stand with this particular TCLM18 cover. It's great. And then another way also to speed up your setup is by not using your regular 360 clamps. If you watch the pre-roll, I talked about the quick rig clamps, very similar to the trigger clamp. So the concept of the trigger clamp is that you're able to just put the light on there, and SLS, what are you talking about, laggy? I don't know which part you're talking about laggy, because it's fine on my end. But the quick or the trigger clamp, it's got a hook. So basically, you put it on top of your truss, and you can let go, and the light's not going to fall down. So then you can just lock it in. But the problem is that when you the quick rig, the actual wing nut is on top of the truss or the top of the clamp, so it's kind of hard to reach. With a quick rig, and there's also the snap clamp, which is smaller. Go with the quick rig. It costs a couple dollars more, but you'll prefer the quick rig in the end. The quick rig is in the back, and it's also narrow, so it'll even latch in between the corners of the truss and those little junctions. But yeah, basically, I've been able to hang heavy lights, 40, 50, 60-pound lights by myself using the quick rig because I can put it in, and if anything happens and I let go, the whole light isn't going to come crashing down on the floor. So I definitely recommend looking into the quick rig. I promise you'll love it. Let's see here. So, where is the other one? I wanted to pull up a couple more photos here so you guys could see. Yes, DJ Gumby, that was a crank stand with the outrigger. The outriggers were not put on there yet. The outriggers were sticking out, but the outriggers are very low to the ground, so you really could not tell that, you know, they were there was a crank stand still. But even then, it was still much easier to do than a trussing. And yet, some people could say, well, but the trussing would look cleaner. Well, but when you're doing a 16-foot totem, you're going to have to put sandbags everywhere and a 3-foot base plate. So the outriggers really aren't that big of a deal when you have that in mind. When I show, the reason that the video is from the desktop is because it's capturing the video. So it's going to lag because it's trying to capture it. I'm not feeding the video directly into OBS. So that's why. So thanks for letting me know that it's lagging like that, and I won't be doing it like that anymore. But let's go over a couple different setups here that we've done. There's also, I got to pull this up here. Let's talk about the bookshelf. This is when you're doing much bigger truss setups. Actually, let's talk about first if you're doing truss totems. So if you're doing, let's say, truss totems, and you want, you know, if you're hanging, you have your light hung, you have it on a trussing hung upside down, you've got it on a clamp. Next, you're going to put it on a totem. Well, that means you got to take the clamp off, and now the light's sitting on top of your base plate. Some people, like a lot of us, will drill a hole through the base plate. You take out the clamp, you put a bolt. So it's kind of a pain taking the clamps on and off. I know it sounds like super petty, but when you're doing events back to back to back, taking clamps on and off, it's a pain in the ass. So that being said, there's a new truss topper. It's called the DTFX-MT, and it allows you to basically have your light sitting directly. Let's see. Well, I guess I'm going to give KPO some love because they are on Google. So this is the DTFX-MT right there, and this sits on top of your stand or your totem, excuse me. And now you can have your light directly on top without having to remove the clamp. But if you have a smaller light, like for example a floodlight, some floodlights will actually fit underneath, so now I can hang 2 lights off one totem. Now, as far as, and again, I'm writing all these questions here, so I am doing my best to be able to write them down, and then we'll go over some Q&As and such. But now let's talk about the Global Truss bookends. I wanted to do a pyramid setup. I had a school that specifically said, hey, you know, we'd like to do this and this setup. Can you do a pyramid? I'm like, of course I can do a pyramid. And the problem with doing the pyramid, I thought I showed you the DTFX. I'm sorry, I did not click over. There we go. So this is the DTFX-MT. Sorry, guys, I thought I was sharing the screen with you. And the light will sit right on top. You clamp it directly on, and depending on what you're doing, you can even clamp directly underneath. and it's a really, really cool truss stopper. I still prefer using the base plates or the top plates with the SAP mount and then LB3800. I'd rather have my moving heads hanging upside down. If they're hanging upside down, you have much more coverage, because if they're on top of a totem right side up, the moving head will only go about this low. So if the dance floor is right here, I'm not hitting this part of the dance floor. By having them upside down, I can hit the entire room. So definitely have your moving heads upside down wherever you guys can. So yeah, I just saw the comments, like, never saw the topper, so I'm switching it over for you. Anyhow, so now let's go back over here. So let's talk about the bookend. So yeah, they wanted to do a pyramid, and the way that a lot of DJs have done, or production companies at this point, have done the corner or pyramids, you make your pyramid, and then they use the swivel clamps, and they just put trussing on the floor flat to create legs, and then they clamp it on there. And that's all fine and dandy, but I'm like, well, that's kind of a pain, because that's, first of all, putting trussing up high where I can trip over on the sides of the stage, and it doesn't look very clean in my opinion. I want it to look like a real pyramid. So I went and got this guy right here, 2 of these. These are the book corners. And the way that it works is we have the trussing, and the trussing goes right here, the 2 pyramid pieces right there, okay? And then this part here, how does this attach to the base plate? Well, you use a spacer, which basically is a coupler. It's for the coupler, and it's open on both sides. So it would mate this conical coupler with the base plate. So it's a little bit off the ground. And we use the 1x4 aluminum base plate. Let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to go to globaltruss.com, and you just go to their base plates, wherever the heck that is. It should be under trussing. You know what? I'll just do it like this. There we go. Ground support bases. No, that's for their big ground support stuff. Oh, there we go. It's on accessories. I should have known that. There we go. So I used the base plate 1x4S, and I put a couple of sandbags, and this pyramid was rock solid stable. So let me show you real quick what that looked like. So we're just going to bring that out here. And then we have Winter Park 2017 prom. Let's take a look, shall we? There's the pyramid right there. We put black pipe and drape behind it. It looks so damn clean. So it was a very, very cool look. Again, it's a very simple setup. All we did was use 2 10-foot pieces. And, you know, we were able to charge more than the average bear, specifically because we were able to do something unique with the trussing. We were, you know, and wiring it up was actually pretty easy. I thought it was going to be a pain to wire up. We have scaffolding or even ladders, and you would be able to use this. So that was a really unique way of setting everything up. You know, and not everything has to have trussing. The crank stands alone are really important. So let me show you a Koei 2016 Homecoming. They wanted to do a video game theme, so we really focused on video screens, and we didn't have any place to set up the trussing. But thank God that we bought those 5200s to lift up the truss, because now we can use them for other things. So in this case, let's go, hang on one second. I don't know my alphabet here. 2016. So there's a setup there. You have a 20-foot video screen, and then you've got 2 14-foot video screens, all beautifully projector mapped. And on the sides, we have the pipe and drape. I put the pipe and drape only about 11 feet high, so it's flush with the 11 by 14 video wall. And then we have 16 feet up there. You can see the crank stands, and then on top of those 5200s, we put the LB3800. Remember that, LB3800, because it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing to use. So actually, real quick, now that I have here, I have some behind-the-scenes photos of the pyramid. So I was going to hook up my phone so you guys can see it, but it's just easy there. So there is the pyramid right there. And I was trying to see if I have a photo of the bookends, but I don't. But you can actually see you can see some of the flat I-beams, and those I-beams aren't there for support. They're actually hanging, and we did some lights in between. So there were lights around the pyramid, inside it, and we used the I-beams so that way it would disappear. Looking back, I really wish I had spray painted at the very least or gotten the powder coated ones so they would blend into the actual pipe and drape. So let's see. I want to see if I had a photo of global. All right, so I'll have to see if I can find some other behind the scenes photos. But again, that's just another unique thing that you're able to do with your trussing. And I'm trying to pull up any more questions. So if you guys have any questions, now is your chance to ask me. So Q&A now, let's do it. Let's talk to Daniel Machado. He asks, what is your go-to all-around truss size? So Global Truss comes in multiple sizes. I have 5, 6.5, 8s, and 10s. If you have a cargo van, go with the 8-footers because you can do two 16-foot or two 8-foots to make a 16-foot span, which I'll show you some of the stuff you can do on a 16-foot span. Let's see here. We're going to go back into our prom season. 2017, and let's go into Blake. So there's two 8-foot sticks right there. Just something simple, clean. You could even do this, if you do two 6.5s, then you would have a 13-foot truss, a little bit shorter, but it would still work just fine. So again, I prefer the 8s. There are 10s, but honestly, the only reason you would get truss, like for example, 10s, I could do two 5s. Instead of a 10. And now I have the modularity that I have those two 5s instead of having a 10-foot stick. So if I needed to do short totems, now I can do short totems, right? But what a lot of people don't think about is, okay, so if you do that, that's great, but now you're spending almost twice as much money because the price difference isn't much between a 5 to a 10. So if you have the budget for it, get the smaller pieces because you can make bigger setups even with the smaller pieces, unless you're adding a lot of weight. Then again, you have the full coupler, so I guess that really wouldn't matter too much. Or you have it's full metal, excuse me. But if you have the budget, yeah, go with the smaller pieces. Go with the 5, 6.5s, 8s. The 10s and all that, they're great. But if you're going to do 10-foot sections, you could just do two 5s, and now you have the modularity. Day and Night DJs ask if I have the lights permanently mounted in the truss or if I mount them and wire them at every gig. Yes, we mount and wire at every single event. We do not pre-wire. Chris Davis asked about maintenance. You're supposed to, polish your truss. To me, it's truss. It's going to get banged around. So I don't do maintenance. We'll power wash them if we need to, but I don't do the truss polisher. That's just me personally. But if you're going to do trade shows or use them at like bridal shows and all that, then yeah, you need to have clean and shiny truss. And for that, we have our white truss that we use for that. I also wanted, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I want to show you another design. Trussing doesn't necessarily have to be to hold lights. Sometimes truss doesn't have to hold anything at all. So what do I mean by that? Well, let me pull up our website, portschoolsonly.com. Wow, it's like slow today. I think it's because I'm streaming, so it completely knocks everything down for me. And let's go into winter springs. It's funny because Florida is hot as hell, and we have all these different winters. We've got Winter Haven, Winter Springs, Winter Park, Winter Garden. And this, unfortunately, was the best photo that they took long story. But at least Alan was able to get it. So it's a New York theme, and they wanted to create a bridge. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And how do we create a bridge? We create it with trussing. Look at this beautiful bridge right here. So what we did is we had two 8-footers. We had a 6.5 and a 5. And, it looked stunning. Now, I could have done 10s, 8s, and 5s, but in reality, we wanted to be a shorter bridge so the students felt like they were tall, walking through it or whatnot. It was also an issue that I had my 10s going out for other events, and we didn't have enough 5s to make up for that. The trussing on the middle, you can see there, they're holding two Lecos. We have the Leco doing the New York City projection. We have a full moon on the side. And then instead of doing like the wiring, because we thought about using safety cable, and we talked about this through the school. I'm like, we have tons of safety cable. We have rolls of it. So we could just do rolls of safety cable and make it look like an actual bridge. But then after we thought, I'm like, no, because we're afraid somebody's going to run into it and knock the whole thing down if, God forbid, there was ever an emergency. So we just did the string lighting, and again, it looked elegant, but it looked like a bridge, but it wasn't holding lights. It was strictly decoration. So really think about using your truss for that kind of stuff. It's more than just holding lights. It can be a structural and decorative type thing. Same thing with like the circular truss. We've used a circular truss to create snow globes, to stretch the screen and project a big earth for around the world. Can truss be used to maybe make something to put your DJ gear on your laptop controller? Yes, and several people have done that before. I actually went a little bit different. I don't know if you guys saw the truss setup. Did I even show it on there? I don't remember if I did or not. Let me know if I show the setup or not. Hold on. Did it show the bridge? But yeah, there's the bridge there. And again, I was a big fan of the way that it looked. It was just something really unique. But now let's talk about that, because that's actually a very good question. Who asked that one? Oh, that was David. Let's see here. I'm going to show you my setup, because again, what people have done is they will take like the little short 1-foot trusses, put a junction block to another 1-foot junction block, and then another 1 foot, or whatever size works for you. And there's even like half-foot sections, so you can really get specific. But what was really unique about, what's really cool about that is you have your setup there, but I wanted to be more unique, and I wanted to make my setup easier. So I got the black powder coat truss. And let me pull up an event that I did. Let me see if I have one here. Hang on one second. Because I actually don't bring it out for homecomings or proms. It's more of my wedding thing. Give me 1 second. 2016. There we go. I'll use this party that I did. So that's my basic wedding, my basic setup right there. And what I did is, this is my road case that I did, because it's a single road case. And I bought 4 of the conical couplers, the half couplers, and I put 2 on each side. And it worked beautifully. And it just basically sits on there. I don't put the actual pins, because it's not like that's going to fall off or anything. But it just sits on top, and we're good. I have the black truss with the black base plate. And it looks incredible. Let's see here. So a couple of the questions that have come in. Lots of great questions. At what lengths would you have to use a cube to connect the center of the truss, or can you just connect the sections? Kyle, can you... Okay, I'm having a brain fart here. At what lengths would you have to use a cube, I'm guessing talking about a junction block, to connect in the center of the truss, or can you just connect the sections? I don't know what you're asking. Can you clarify that a little bit? And then I'm happy to answer. Greg asked, Global Truss, the ideas are endless. Wasn't that a tagline? No, it's building. I can't remember. It's building something. SLS says, I think I'm going to get 2 or 3 7-foot truss pieces. Or the possibilities are endless. That's right. Okay, so I don't remember taglines. That's not my job. My job is to remember parts, not taglines there. But that being said, yeah, I mean, there's tons of booths out there where it can shows you how to build a booth out of trussing. I don't pay any attention to those really, because that's for bigger setups. For a basic setup, this allows me to do some really creative things. Now, the other thing that makes me paranoid about just sitting it on top of trussing is that it can get knocked over, which in that case, you can just get aircraft safety cable and tie the ends of your trussing, or your coffin, directly into your truss. Or you could do if it's lower and you can go a couple inches higher, you could do the half couplers on the bottom of your road case, like I said, use your conical spacers, and then use a side entry clamp, which is a clamp with the nipple attached to it. So it's going to be about 2 inches off the truss, so you'll want your truss to be a little bit 2 inches lower than what you need it to be, but then that way it's completely bolted down into the truss. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what Kyle was asking. Kyle, if you can let us know, that would be great. What you can do with trussing I could go on and on and on and really talk about it. I'll give you another setup that we did, so you guys can get some creative ideas. This is Bayshore High School. We were doing an Alice in Wonderland theme, and we wanted to create the rabbit hole, right, where the rabbit fell down through. So what we did is we have the pipe and drape, we have it going down here. There was a very specific reason why we wanted that, why we had to have the pipe and tray go down. Oh, because we needed to attach to that section of the trussing. And then we had lights and stuff coming down from it, and it created a really unique look where that circle kind of stuck out. If we had it the same height, the circle would blend in. So this way, that circle really sticks out. Now, how do we have that circle sitting there? Well, what we did is, it's kind of hard to see, but the pipe and drape is covering two 8-foot sections, and then, 10-foot, excuse me, and then about 2 feet down, we have that circle connected using those half couplers that I told you about, the cheeseburros, aka swivel clamps. A couple more questions have come in. He's trying to figure out how much weight he can put onto the conicals. I don't want to give that information because that would not be my insurance that I'm going to risk. So that's something you want to talk to a Global Truss about, how much weight you can put on those conicals. The answer is quite a bit, though. It would take a lot to really get them to break down. So you are good. Oscar Suarez asks, when pre-wiring using Velcro is tough because it can slide and come off. What I've been successful is with gray electrical tape. Oh, yes, because somebody asked DJ Gumby asked about any pre-wiring tips. I don't do any pre-wiring at all. I just charge enough where you can pay for somebody to do the pre-wiring if you don't like doing it. I have some setups that are on rounded tees that have like the 2 lights, 2 floodlights, and then 2 smaller moving heads, and it goes in a custom road case. That's all pre-wired, but that's not trussing. I don't like pre-wiring on trussing. That's a great way to get your wires cut between the trussing getting moved around and shoved and carried in and so forth. Kyle asks, so if you were going to have a 20-foot truss up in the air horizontally, would you need junction boxes? Oh, no. You don't need a junction box in the center of those two at all. It doesn't add any benefits over just mating your 2 10-foot pieces together. So you do not need a junction block, unless the point of a junction block is if you're going to have trussing going out of another way. So if you're going to have, 2 10-foot with a pole down the middle, then yeah, you would need a junction block. But if not, you do not need a junction block for that. Hopefully that helps. Let's see here. When you add moving heads to the tops of totems, how do they stay on top? Or do you use screws? So I drill holes through my SAP mount, and once I drill the holes, I just use the same grade 8 bolt that uses for the clamps, and it just locks in, and we're good to go. So that's my way of doing it. Let's go ahead and talk about the prize here. At this point, by the time that you guys hear this, do me a favor, nobody type anything. This contest is for U.S. only, unfortunately. So only type your name if you're in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S. and you tuned in, I do appreciate you guys tuning in. That definitely means a lot that you guys tuned in even when there's no prize. So I need to write in U.S. only. And go. Okay, so now let's talk about what the prize is, because I've been kind of vague. I've just been saying the Ultimate Truss Kiosk. What the hell does that mean? Well, Ultimate Truss Kiosk is something that I design for my events when I do FASC, which is the Florida Association of Student Councils, when I do D3, which is District 3, or any of the D3 or the district meetings for SGA. I've done this for bridal shows, and I've rented this out to other people. I do believe that the center of a good trade show booth should have a way to showcase your work visually, and it should have a sign-up area. And I believe that this totem, or this, basically it's a totem, will take care of it. So let me pull this up over here to show you guys what that looks like. Let's see. Hey. Come on. There we go. So this is the truss totem. You've got a couple different parts here. First of all, you have the SQ4112. That is a 6.5 foot totem. Now, what I did, and it did not come with this one, so with the prize, but you can add a top plate if you wanted to and have a light. This one I didn't do it. I didn't even use a top plate to add a light. I just have a very small, I have one of the Tri-7X Go's, and I put safety cables and tie wraps, and it says tie wrap to the top. No, it's not going to come crashing down because the actual light, it's clamped onto like the little smaller bars, these little bars you see right here. I use an F14 Mini 360, which is a tiny little clamp that will mount around there. So that's how the light is held together. So I didn't need a top plate for that. So yeah, we have the light coming down on there. It's got the DT TV MT, which if you saw in the pre-roll, it allows you to hang your TV effortlessly. Super easy to do. You have your iPad mount where you put your iPad. Obviously, the TV and the iPad are not included. You have your iPad mount here. And then you have your shelf so you can put your business cards. And then, of course, you have a base plate. So you got your SQ4112. You have your base plate 2x2S, which is a steel base plate. You want something heavy. You have your DTF34 shelf. You have your iPad MT and the DT TV MT34. And this gives you the ultimate Truss kiosk. I mean, look at this thing. It's not going to lie. This thing is awesome. And, you may ask, well, how much attention does it attract? Well, there's the whole unit right there. Now I'm using there the aluminum base plates because we could use sandbags, but were it all possible, I would say just use the 2x2 base plate. And I want to show you what it looks like here. There it is about, 50, 60 feet away. The lights are off, but I mean, you can see that it attracts attention. And as students were coming in, they saw this and they were curious, like, what is this? And they saw, I use MailChimp on the iPad. Hey, sign up so you can win, blah, 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 blah. It was just a really unique way. So if you're a karaoke DJ, you could put your karaoke screen on there and you could have an iPad software so people can sign up for their karaoke tracks. So it's more than just a kiosk for promotional purposes. You can use it at an event. And this is what Global Truss is giving away. They're giving away the SQ4112, the base plate 2x2S, the DTF34 shelf, the iPad mount, and the DTVMT34. You're talking about over $650 plus another $200 of shipping that it's going to take. And that's going to go out to some lucky winner today. So let me go ahead and get all the names. All right. Last call, 30 seconds by the time that they hear this. I like how I ask people to put in their names and it's people leaving comments. Like I put, please only type in your name. Guys, come on, bruh. All right. As I said, this is the last call. It was like, well, by now, by the time you hear this, it's probably over. So now I'm going to format. I'm going to copy and paste all these, do plain text. And I'm going to go into random.org and have the winner selected. Chris, I just said, like, don't write anything. And he continues writing like twice. Chris, relax, guy. I'm trying to copy the names, not comments. All right, we are good to go. All right, here we go. So if you are the winner, you're going to add me on Facebook. Downey, I just got you in. So if you are the winner, you will message me via Facebook and I will get you in touch. Danny, I just got you in. All right, let's go ahead and pick the winner. Here we go. And the winner is Victor Lemur. Victor, if you are there. Victor, you need to make sure that you are signed up on the Gear It First list. So I need you to do me a favor because one of the winners I had to disqualify because they were not on the list. So like, oh, I don't want to get email. Well, you don't win the prize. So we contacted the next person down. But I need you to make sure that you are on the Gear It First. If you can do me a favor on Facebook and message me your email and I'll verify that you are there. But Victor, congratulations. Yay. Yeah, email me. I will get you in touch with Global Truss. You're going to love this. This thing is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Victor, for participating. And thank you all of you guys for joining. So real quick, before you guys go anywhere, tomorrow I was going to do a live stream. I'm rescheduling that because tomorrow's Friday. And I know there's things you guys need to go do as far as gigs and everything else. However, I'm going on a 10-year, my 10th anniversary cruise with my wife. So it's going to have to wait till after August the 5th. That's when we come back. But it's not going to be, it's a live stream, but the video isn't done live because this video, Pangolin wants to go all out. So we're going to go down to the warehouse. We're setting up the studio, and it's going to talk about laser safety. Even if you don't do lasers, you need to be there. I promise you are going to make money watching this seminar. Just like hopefully all these seminars, you've been able to make money. Victor, hopefully it's not an issue shipping it to Alaska. I did not think about that. They told me US, so you should be good. So we'll figure that out one way or another. But anyhow, that all being said, yes, the the Pangolin seminar. Make sure you guys tune in for that one. It's pre-recorded, but it is going to be streamed live. And then afterwards, I will tune in. I'll have Justin Perry of Pangolin. He'll be there live answering all your questions. Definitely want to be there for that. I will send out an email, so make sure you keep an eye out for the email. I will also post it on gearitfirst.com, but I will send out an email so you guys will know exactly when to stream and everything is. I know, don't you hate? It's like, no, you see who the other people were. So, again, absolutely big congratulations. And I did that on purpose because I really want you guys to see. I don't want anybody thinking that I'm rigging the contest or anything like that. The blank spaces were because I copied. Actually, I'll show you how I do it here in case. I don't think anybody ever really questions my integrity, but just in case. I had one guy years ago. Screw him. See right there, I copy and paste. So those spaces right there, it counts as a person. So, or it counts as an entry. Truss malfunctions in cold weather. Pick a new winner. So, anyhow, guys, a couple of things if you wouldn't mind. If you're not subscribed to my channel, do it. I've just uploaded 2 videos that I would love for you to watch and comment. Watch the rant about the industry icon. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. It's a long rant. You're going to love it. I promise you're going to love it because I guarantee one of you guys is doing what I'm going to rant about, and you'll be like, oh, crap, and you're going to change your wording but on your website, but it's going to be for the better. And then I just talked about one about how to, how I've done these live streams, some of the tools to trade. So definitely check that out. I think you guys would like to see some of the behind-the-scenes work and what goes on over here. That being said, thank you guys so much. Victor, again, give me a message on Facebook, and I will get you guys set up. You all have a great evening. Thank you again for tuning in to Gear It First. Have a good night, and God bless.